Alright, hello everybody. I'm just going to do a quick little demo on how to go ahead and put together this first piece of the Lego body of the Lego airplane. So first of all, we have this long 6-dot piece here, and we're going to attach this 4-circle piece onto the top of it using a static constraint. So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to go in and set your working directory, and on I have my files, all of my Lego pieces, loaded onto the desktop in the class resources week 2, which I had you guys download yesterday. So just make sure you select the Lego plane part folder as your working directory. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new assembly, and I'll call this Lego body. And we're going to click OK. And that should open up a new assembly model for us. Then we're going to go in and we're going to prepare. We're going to change our properties. We want to make sure that this is set to millimeters and not inches. So set. OK. And now we're ready to go. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and assemble our first piece. Now, in order to see what the pieces are, because we don't know the names of all these pieces, we're just going to go to Views and select the thumbnails. And again, if you need to see a copy of this, I did put the base right here. I did the first 3 pieces for you, so you can go in and look at those just to kind of give yourself an idea. But our first piece is this one right down here. It's this Lego plane large. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and it's going to open it up. Now the first thing you need to do is you need to select your default. Your first piece usually needs to be your default piece. So I'm going to go to my static constraint list here. I'm going to go down to default, and I'm going to select it. Once I do that, the piece turns gold, and it says up here that it's fully constrained. So I can go ahead and click the check mark, and now we have our default piece. Okay, so that's our first step. The next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit the assemble button again. And if we need to, we can go back and look at our directions to see what's going next. So we need this little 4-circle piece. And I'm going to find that on here, which is right here. It's just called Legos. So I double click on it, and it puts it out here, just kind of floating. It's purple. I can see all these datum planes here, these brown datum planes. So I'm going to shut those off just to make the field a little bit easier to see. Okay, so now I'm going to grab this piece by the little dot in the center. I'm just going to kind of move it so that it's close to where it needs to be. So just kind of using your little arrows here and kind of twisting it around. You want to get it close to where it needs to be. Move it up a little bit here. Alright, so now we're in the general vicinity. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and select our datum planes. Or we need to select our constraints. So the first constraint I'd like to do, if I flip it up here, I'd like to just level this thing out so that it's parallel to the end. Both end pieces are parallel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this plane right here, and I want to make this plane parallel to this plane. And it went ahead, and since I had it selected on automatic, Creo said, okay, I think he wants these to be parallel. And I did. So it made that guess. If that's not what I wanted, I could have gone in here and changed it. So for example, if I wanted it to be a distance, I could have selected it to be a certain distance out, but that's not what I wanted. I did want it to be a coincident or a parallel plane. So I'm just going to hit the undo button twice, and now we have it as a coincidence, which is parallel. Okay, so the next step, we have our first constraint now, and again, if you need to, you can click on this placements tab here, and that will show you the different constraints that we have, the different coincident static constraints here. So the first one we have is a coincidence. The next one we're going to do, if we flip this thing, if we look here, we need to have another edge that's parallel. So we're going to go ahead and select. You can do either side. I'm going to do this side right here and make this side. If you see here, it's still on automatic. So I'm going to make that side parallel to this side. So there we go. If we flip this thing, let's look at it from the top view. You can see that both of those sides are exact. They're exact. Now you can tell here that the top piece is a little bit smaller than the bottom piece, because when these were made. Obviously, somebody got confused on the dimensions, and that's okay. We'll just leave it as it is for now. But this piece is not exactly where we want it yet. We have one more constraint that we need to make, and we need to bring this thing down. So what we're going to do is we're going to constrain the top of this one to the bottom of this piece. And now you can see that full Lego piece just turned gold. Up here in our status, it says it's fully constrained. We click the check mark, and our piece now looks the way that we want it to. Okay, the next step we need to do, going back to my directions here, we need to go ahead and put this red angled piece on here. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to click the assemble button. We need to find that piece, which it's right here, called red angled. So I'm going to double click on that, and now we have it floating out here. So the first step is we need to go ahead and rotate this thing and get it in the general vicinity of where we want it. Right about there. Move it over here just a little bit. Just kind of change. Oh, it's way off. So let's just kind of move it this direction a little bit. Again, we're just getting it close. It doesn't need to be perfect because that's what our coincidences are for. So the first thing that I see here, I want to go ahead and line this side with this side. So I'm going to make sure that it's selected on automatic, which it is. I select both of these sides, and there we go. Now those sides are level. It looks like the bottom piece is probably a little bit too long because both of these pieces, the angled and the forward circle, are the same size. So I think when we made the bottom piece, it was made too big. But that's okay. We're going to leave it as is for now. Alright, so as we look at this, I think that I really need to have this edge right here, this edge, line up with this edge. So now because this edge right here is angled, I can't really put a flat parallel constraint here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make this side constrained to this side, but I'm going to use a distance constraint because as you can see right now, this is the purple piece here is not where it needs to be. So I'm going to change this from a coincidence to a distance, and I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to use my analysis tool real quick, and I'm going to measure this length right here because I don't remember how long it is. Okay, it's 8 millimeters. Perfect. So I'm going to go back here to my components placement tab, which again I just selected this side and this side, and I changed it from a coincidence to a distance. So my distance I'm just going to put in there is 8. Actually, it needs to be -8. And now these should be lined up perfectly, just the way they're supposed to be in the directions. Okay, so again, to remind you what I just did, I aligned this side to this side using a distance constraint, and I typed in the distance of 8 millimeters. So I'm almost done here. This is almost on now. Now the last thing I need to do is just make this plane coincide with this plane. And oh, it assumed I wanted a distance on that one as well, but I don't. I don't need that piece floating, so I'm going to go ahead and select coincidence, and that will bring it down to where it needs to be. So there we go. I'm going to select OK. We now have two of our pieces ready to go. This is starting to look the way it's supposed to. Now, if you want to, you can actually go in and you can change the dimensions of this part because, as you can see, it's way too big. So you could actually go in here and right-click on this and open it separately so that you could change the dimensions. It would be the first sketch more than likely. You'd want to just click Edit Definitions here and make this a little bit smaller, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just kind of showing you how you could get there if you needed to. So I'm going to cancel that one, and I'm going to go back to what I was working on right here. Okay, so we have our two pieces on. We have two more pieces to finish with, and that would be these two gray pieces. Okay, I'm not sure what they're called, so I'm going to go ahead and click Assemble. And I'm going to look for my pieces in here. I know they're here. Oh, they are right at the top. This guy right here. Okay, so I've clicked on it. It's now free floating. I'm going to just kind of maneuver him kind of where he needs to be. Okay, it's pretty close, close enough. Maybe scoot them over a little bit this way. All right, so the first thing that I see here that I need to do is I need to make this piece line up with this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this side, and I'm going to make it coincide with this side right here. Okay, and it did it, but again, it assumed I wanted a distance. So I'm going to make those a coincidence, and now they are lined up perfectly. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge and line it up with this edge right here. So if I go to my top view now, you can see that that piece is exactly where it needs to be. Okay, Control D, that puts me back at an angle. And I have one more constraint I need to make. I'm going to make this bottom coincide with this plane right here. And again, it's automatically assuming I want it as a distance, which I don't. There we go. And it is fully constrained. All right, we are almost done. We just need to put one more of these guys in here. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to hit the assemble button. Click on this one. This time I'm going to flip it around and just kind of move it up here. And I want to take this. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go ahead and line this side up with this face right here. I want to match up the backs because I know that these pieces are going to be too long. So I do not want to line this edge up with this edge because then we're going to have a gap between the two. So let's go ahead and line this face up with the back of this one. Not at a distance, but at a coincidence. And then I have one more set. I'm going to do the bottom of this with the top of this as a coincidence. Okay, we are fully constrained. Click the check mark, and now our piece is good to go. All right, well, something got messed up here. I'm not sure which pieces are too small. I'd have to get out my calipers and do some measuring to see which one is off. It might be these two pieces now that I look at it. But so there we go. We have our base finished. Make sure when you save these that you're saving them all in the same folder. So if all of these parts are inside of the Lego part plane folder, Lego plane part folder, make sure that you're saving your assembly in the same folder. Otherwise, when you reopen it next time, the computer's going to get confused and it's going to lose your parts. So there you go. Good luck.